Hi, and welcome to This Week in Evansville. I'm Johnny Kincaid. Thanks for making a little time to join us for what I think is going to be a great program today. We've got a very special guest that we're going to get to here in just a minute. But before we go anywhere, I got to remind you that, we need you to subscribe. We need you to hit the like button, and we need you to share. Okay, simple as that, because we want this information to get to as many people as possible. And that's how we get it out there, is with you interacting with us. All right. All right. So on the show here, we have been talking lately about some musical chairs that's been going on with some of our elected officials, because we have our state representative, Ryan Hatfield, deciding that he wants to be a judge, so he's going to run for that. And then our city council person, Alex Burton, is going to run for Ryan's seat. It just makes life very, very interesting, and it's going to make this one of the more interesting elections, I think, in not only nationally, because everybody's buzzing about, the national presidential election sucks the oxygen out of the room. Everybody's talking about it. But here in Indiana, baby, there's some action coming our way during this election. So it's going to get really, really fun. So joining us right now is Jon Schrock. And John, you are, where is Covington?
I'm up in Fountain County, Indiana, on the north edge of the 8th District. Native-born Hoosier. Was born about probably 7, almost 8 miles away from where I'm sitting right now. Love the Hoosier land.
So you have actually a very big announcement to make that you've just released to the public. And so I'm going to let you make your announcement here right now.
So I'm announcing that I'm running for the 8th District of Indiana for the Congress seat that Larry Bucshon. So I appreciate his service. He served in the U.S. Congress. We're going to bring back to the people of the state of Indiana. I'm going to continue my work with the grassroots, continuing to expose corruption, continuing to bring real voices to government. But I'm going to be doing it down in D.C., taking your voice down to D.C., where they need to hear it the most.
Are you going to continue to live in Indiana?
Absolutely. I've got 10 kids, brother. I've got to.
Wait, 10 kids? How do you have time for anything when you got 10 kids?
I have a wife that is a saint. I'm so blessed to have a wife. She's fully involved in this. She's fully supportive. It was one of the things as I was praying about it. I said, Lord, I've got to have 110% support from my wife, and she's fully supportive of this. So, yes, continue to reside here in Indiana, do work there in D.C., then get back here as quick as I can, because I want to be able to foster open communication with the constituents. We've got needs out there that need to be heard, and we need to take these voices down to D.C. so that they can hear them.
There's an interesting history to this district. You're pretty much at the far north end of the 8th.
Yes.
And it used to be a real battle. I mean, they called it the Bloody Eighth.
Bloody Eighth, yes.
Yeah, because it was such a battleground for the Republicans and the Democrats. And I remember when Richard Murdoch was running, and Richard had a red, white, and blue school bus and had everybody sign the bus with Sharpies, which I thought was a great little gimmick and everything. And then, of course, John Hostetler. Oh my gosh, John was a total constitutionalist, which is what we'll talk about this here in a second, because that's what I really want to see in somebody going to DC. Is I want somebody who understands that document and doesn't say, oh, well, they meant that for that time when they wrote it. They don't mean it to apply to us now. We don't need that. We need to be looking at this document for what it really is, which is the foundation of our country. And then, but John was a great constitutionalist, and which made him very predictable. You could pretty well look at a bill and go, here's how John's going to vote on that, right? And then we of course, we had Frank McCloskey, was a Democrat, and Frank might have been in there when I first came to Indiana sometime back. And then, of course, Larry Bucshon, who, how long has Larry served us now? He was I want to say he was first elected in what, maybe he's been 12 years now. Does that sound right? 12, either
That's right
12 or
around there. I
14.
don't have
Yeah.
that number memorized
Yeah.
yet. He's been
Yeah.
serving. Yes.
Yeah. He's, I would say this about anybody after that many terms in office. It was time for him to move on. And I'd say that kind of because I just don't like guys who are going to go and stay forever and make that their living. I don't think that's what we had in mind with when the country was founded. So so I've spouted off my thoughts on those things enough, and I know that we're in line with some things because we've talked and I know about things that you've been involved in and everything. So I know that we gel pretty well here. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that are kind of specifics that are just to get your feel for it. One of the things that's going to happen in Indiana this year during the legislative session is they're going to be voting on the LEAP project. This is where in they're going to take water from Lafayette and take it to Lebanon, right? So that Lebanon can build this huge new community, basically, and lots of tech and so on down the line. But the question it's really going to raise is that question of water rights. And where do you? I mean, does the local community have rights to their water? Does the state, or does the federal government? Because I know at one time the Corps of Engineers was kind of calling every ditch in existence a navigable waterway. So who has authority over those water resources?
I know here in the state of Indiana, hearing the Attorney General, I believe he opined that there's not a constitutional right to water. I believe was the decision that Indiana Attorney General came to. I think this is something that we need to have. This is some governmental red tape. And in order to have business growth in the state of Indiana, we need to be slashing some government red tape. There's too many layers of government. And we can't even promote business growth with that much red tape. It's a burdensome process placed upon business owners. To your point of the what they're doing in the LEAP project, I've been going around the state of Indiana exposing the corruption of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation through farmland conferences, having a resounding voice of Hoosiers across the state and the 8th District that they don't want this. And to be able to get their voices to DC, to be able to have that platform in order to speak to it, because this money, while it's happening here in the state of Indiana, has some federal funds that are tied to it: the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Bill, and others that are pushing this forward. They're not going to stop just at tech. They're going to build a community. They have in the process there in Lebanon, they are thinking about and planning in order to have housing developments that are going to be there in Lebanon. So there'll be mass urbanization for that. So these are issues that are going to be affecting the state of Indiana, the 8th District. And another one that many are talking about as I get around the 8th District is the Wabash Valley Resources, where they are looking at burying carbon dioxide inside the ground. Wildly dangerous, a crazy cacophony idea that they would go and bury carbon dioxide. I'm a simple thought process person, just like everybody else. That they go and think about this is if with water, it's really good inside your stomach. We all go and take a glass of water and we drink it. If it gets inside your lungs, we call that drowning. We say that's a bad thing. Carbon dioxide is a blessing from God. It causes photosynthesis to happen. That's where you take the 6 parts carbon dioxide, 6 parts water, and you have radiant sunlight inside of the plant, and it gives it the glucose in order to grow. Carbon dioxide inside of the air is a blessing. It's a gas of life. However, carbon dioxide inside the ground, studies are showing it's wildly dangerous. We've got to get this information out. This is red tape that's going on, and it's being pushed by the U.S. House of Representatives. So getting your voice down to the U.S. House of Representatives is going to be key.
These are issues that are big, and they look. I mean, just the feel of them are strange, and you kind of wonder how do people fall for the proposal even? I mean, if you go and you say, well, we want to build this community, and we want to do it in this place that doesn't have enough water resources to handle that. So we want to build a pipeline to take millions of gallons a day from over here and bring it to this new resource. I go, who in the world is going to buy this? But they're buying it. And the same thing with the carbon dioxide thing. The first time I ran across that, I went, what flim-flam artist sold them on this idea?
There's a lot of money behind it, though, Johnny. It's crazy the amount of money that we are creating. I was told by a Kentucky state senator that in 2011 he was working. They were looking at doing carbon sequestration in Kentucky. As I get around, the network that I've built, the grassroots network, is amazing. What God has provided for that. And so what we have, he said, it was wildly expensive. But then we have the crazy Biden administration that wants to go out and print money, I guess. Maybe they're printing it off an HP printer. I don't know. It's some laser jet or inkjet printer that's out there. And what they're doing is they're creating the money. They're funding this nonsense. Maybe that's what part of the problem is. But I know we need to stop it. We need to get the voices of the 8th District down to D.C.
Yeah. And people with common sense going into government. That's and that seems to be the rarity. Now, here's the other thing that is a point of curiosity, and I know I'm throwing you questions that maybe aren't as relevant as what you hoped for, but there are things that keep me up at night sometimes. There seems to be an exodus of Republicans leaving Congress right now. And it's happening in a lot of different states. Mm-hmm. We're losing 4 of our 9 out of the House in Indiana. What's going on? You have any thoughts on that?
I think that what we can see out of it is I've not spoken to who's retired or not retired, who's ending their term. I know one of the 4 is running for another office, so right. You can't run for an office, 2 offices at the same time. So what I look at it is maybe we don't know exactly what the reason why. But we do know what we can do. Right now, what an opportunity to be able to get a native Hoosier, a person who's been working in the grassroots, a person who believes in a constitutional republic, a person that believes that the family is the most vital unit of society, a person that believes and fights for a free market, a person who judges people off their character and abilities. And I want to be judged the same way. And I believe that rights come from God, not from the government. Those I'm hearing across the state of Indiana, across the 8th District, and I will continue to expose the corruption. And we get that opportunity in the 8th District. So we can bring our voice. I'm an 8th District guy. I was born here. I was raised here. And I'd be able to get your voice down to the U.S. House of Representatives.
What are your thoughts on term limiting?
What is my thoughts on term limiting? Mm-hmm. I think that the ballot box is a wonderful place that we can have term limits. When we get a person in office that has the ear of the people, you mentioned earlier, you say maybe these aren't relevant to what I want. It's not about what I want. I'm guided by the Constitution. That's the boundary markers. We're playing basketball. Here's the rules of basketball. Here's the inbounds line. Here's the out of bounds line. Here's the 3-point line. Here's what a foul is. What I find to be important is what the constituents tell me, because I've got to prioritize constituents' needs, putting people first. I've got to do that. And I am going to continue to do that. When I say I've got to do that, it's something of continuance. It's something that I've been doing in order to propel the people's voices to our state capitol. Back to the question about term limits. I find the ballot box to be a great place where we get the people unelected. We finally get somebody in that's of a good demeanor, of a constitutional background, of voting constitutional, putting constituents' needs first, and then they're out and here's a limited amount of time. If they're still doing the work of the people, let's continue to have them there. I'm telling you, rhinos are a dime a dozen. People that are Republican in name only, people that have radical ideologies are a dime a dozen. To find the diamond in order to and have them down at the U.S. House, you keep that person there for as long as you can.
You know, I had a great conversation with Micah Beckwith the other day, and we're
going to be speaking with him on Thursday. We're going to be at the same event on Thursday.
Well, good. Well, the new phrase that he's coined, I've got to give him credit for it, because we were talking about the people who don't bother to get involved in the process in politics, but want to whine about the rhinos, you know, and they complain about the rhinos constantly, and then they sit on the sidelines and just watch the whole thing play out in front of them. And we're now referring to those people as winos. So,
absolutely.
So feel free to use that on Micah when you see him.
I'll make sure that I will ask him on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Good deal. All right. So you're probably going to be in a crowded field in this primary, I would guess. I mean, we have half the state running for governor right now. I would expect that we'll have the
other half's going to run for the 8th district.
The 8th district, yeah. So you know, there'll be a bunch of people lined up for it. How does that impact strategies? I mean, how do you overcome the fact that you might have, you know, 6 or 7 other people wanting the same position?
I think it does play into a strategy. You have to look at the landscape of the land. You have to look at that in order to have it. We've worked with the campaign team in order to look at it. What if there's just me? You know, how do I get out there and get my voice to the people? If it's just me in the race, what if there's a 15 that declare for it? You know, all of these pieces along the way, we've looked at it every which direction, and we see a clear path to win. One of the top things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking to the people, talking to the average rank and file, if you will. That's what they call it down at D.C., the rank and file members, you know, the people of the 8th district. And hearing from them and talking to them, championing the constitutional principles, but then empowering the people. That's what we're going to be doing.
So if you, I'm of the belief that if you win the primary, you're more than likely going to win the general, just by virtue of the composition of the district. We've changed in composition from the old days of the bloody 8th, and we're now much more conservative district. So I think that the primary becomes the real big battlefield going into this, as opposed to the general election. I think the general election will probably be much less intense, I think.
Well, the Cook Partisan Voting Index ranks the 8th as an R plus 19. So I understand your thought on that, but I see is anytime that we have the opportunity to reach out to people and talk to them, I'm taking nothing for granted. I'm going to take nothing for granted as the next congressman in January of 2025 when I get sworn into office. I'm taking nothing for granted. I've seen crazier things happen. I'm going to be fighting for the people. So an R19, I understand, and it plays into a strategy if you will. It's something that you have to take into consideration, but it's something that it's not going to be, oh, I'm going to lay down and I'm not going to work. Because when I'm called to be a congressman for the 8th district, it's a job. It's an occupation that I have, a responsibility. It's a big mantle in order to take upon yourself, that you're going to represent people. That means I've got to be in front of them. These are the times when the people come out. Unfortunately, they're not coming out as much as some may like. But I say is take the responsibility not only to take their voice down to D.C., but also to get them involved. Hey, they come out to a dinner. They come out to a town hall meeting. It's more opportunity to find out those who I'm representing starting in January of 2025. It's work.
So I know that it takes you a little time when a person gets, there's a definite pecking order to Congress, and it takes a little time to work your way up the pecking order. But if you could have kind of instant clout after the election, what would be your absolute first priority to push through?
First priority to push through once I get there to, well, number one, we've got to look at what's going on with our children. We talk about here in the state of Indiana, if we look at the state legislature, and this is a nationwide epidemic that is going on, is our education system. Wow, is it in trouble? And we keep throwing money at it, and we keep talking about, hey, we need more money, we need more money. But I'm telling you, what we've got going on is an epidemic of grotesque immensity. We've got there's a video out there, Dysphoria. I would highly recommend to all of your viewers to watch Dysphoria. You also need watch the mind polluters, primary source documentation. One of the things that I've been saying at these grassroots events across the state of Indiana, this is publicly available information, just not publicly known. What Mark and Amber Archer did with mind polluters and with Dysphoria was to take publicly available information and make it publicly known. And so what we have to do is talk about what's happening in it. And we have got to get back to true education, not indoctrination. This communistic indoctrination that is happening inside of our public schools is an affront to Hoosiers across the 8th district. Their children are not getting educated. Their reading scores in the state of Indiana, we should never have single-digit reading scores as the school average. We need to get back to teaching actual education. We've got to get rid of social emotional learning. We've got to get rid of that. That gives us a foot. And when I say first, I don't know if it's tied for first, but then if we don't have free and fair elections, do we have a republic? Mm-hmm. We've got to have people at the table in order to be able to have the discussions. I see a path forward that we can have is to have a free and fair election, but we've got to have people that are willing to sit at the table in order to start having the discussion, because it's going to take a nationwide conglomeration of the people, of we the people, in order to right these wrongs. So when you say what's first, I don't know do I put the one first or the other first, because if you don't have kids, you don't have a future, but if you don't have elections, I think you catch my drift.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people who are talking about ways to fix the election system and right that ship. One of those being, I've heard Diego Morales on several occasions talking about going back to paper ballots and having more accountability within the election system. We certainly need something to change there so that people feel confident in their vote counting again.
So we look at France. You mentioned paper ballots. We look at France. Some people have told me paper ballots, John, are going to take weeks for us to count, yet it doesn't. I remember back being here in Fountain County and waiting for all the precincts to come in. And it wasn't until weeks later. It was that night that we knew all of it, and we were paper ballots, hand counted. Kind of makes me wonder, how do we make that happen? What do we need to do in order to make that happen? I don't have, as the next congressman, they're not going to hand me a new magic wand that I can make things happen, abracadabra, and something happens. It's going to require people sitting down. How do we make that happen? I know that there's been a bill filed here in the state of Indiana, in the Indiana House, that's looking at paper ballots and hand counted. We had to sit down and look at all the laws in order to be able to do that. That's what I'm talking about. We've got to sit down and be able to come up with a process. Then we have the discussion is, well, how do I have people that are willing to vote? And that's where I put the responsibility back at the feet of we the people. We the people. Mm-hmm. I'm part of it. I'm part of we the people have to step forward. That's why I step forward. That's why I'm stepping forward as a candidate for the 8th Congressional District. I am taking a mantle upon myself. What I'm looking to have is people that are willing to put on the mantle as well, the coat of going down and being a hand counter of ballots, willing to go to the training class, willing to go and sit in the precincts, because we've got to get back to precincts, not voting centers. How do we go about doing that? We've got to sit at the table and we've got to be able to line item that out, repeal this, and we've got to change that, and we've got to delete that and add this in order to get that election integrity. There's too many people that don't have trust and confidence in their elections. Mm-hmm. And that is a shame.
Yeah, it really is. And, I know we've done all kinds of things trying to get the voting numbers up. So we go to doing the voting centers. Well, yeah, we tried to make it more convenient, but did it really work? Did we accomplish anything in doing that? And are we just as well off to go back to the precinct level and do it the way it used to be done? And that's all got to be a part of the conversation is figuring out how we right this ship and I think it's as much a matter of people losing their faith in the system as anything, as our incentive to really get in there and roll up our sleeves and fix the election system. Not fix the elections, fix the system. Right.
Well, too many of the Hoosiers in the 8th district are people just like me. They think through the process. If they have an expense report, you have to have a receipt. You can't just be given it. And then where did the receipt come from? And they want to know the process. I've talked to CPAs, accountants across the 8th district, and they're like, some of this makes me wonder, where's the accountability for that? And it causes them, as you just said, it causes them to lose faith in the system. I want to restore that faith. I want to be able to have that in order to be able to have them have faith in the system. But I can tell you, if we don't understand that it's broken, and I declare to you, it is broken. The system is broken. Mm-hmm. What we have as our election systems right now is undeniably broken. And we've got to get back to one, establishing trust and restoring that. And we're going to have to get back to having those paper ballots. Let's make no bones about that. How do we get there? Well, we're going to have to sit down and be able to figure out what federal law am I going to have to talk with other congressmen and women about in order to get that repealed? Is it the Help America Vote Act? Is it I don't know. We're going to have to sit down and have that conversation. But first, they've got to come to the table. So first, my first priority is sounding the alarm. It's broken. In the area of children, it's broken. We're grooming our children inside of schools across the 8th district. We are grooming children inside schools across the 8th district. You say, John, that's earth-shattering. I understand. I can help you through that, and we can understand. I have 10 kids. I want them to have a future like I have had. I want them to have the same opportunities I've had. That's why I value life from the womb to the tomb. You understand that there's people right now that desire death more than life.
Yeah.
And you've got to stand against it. That's why I'm running. So in getting this, we've got to sound the alarm. and have a solution and get people to the table in order to be able to have the conversation. I'm looking forward to chatting with all the clerks across the counties that I'm getting the opportunity to represent. I'm looking forward to talking with all the commissioners. I'm looking forward to talking with the county council members in order for all of these pieces. But let's make no mistake about it. When we have an enemy encroaching in, I'm going to call out that enemy and continue calling out that enemy as I have been. Nothing's changing. It's just Schrock for Congress.
All right. Well, John, thank you so much. Not only for your time, but for jumping in and wanting to be a part of the solution, because that's what it's about. It's about folks getting involved. Quit standing on the sidelines complaining, get involved and do something about it. And so thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having me on.
We'll do it again. Absolutely.
I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you also for joining us for This Week in Evansville. Be sure that you hit that like button, share us, and become a subscriber. We do appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to sit through not sit through, to come and get informed here with us on This Week in Evansville.